There's a lot of important rivalries to highlight this week. There's the Steelers versus Cowboys, which is etched in glamour versus blue collar, and it capsulized the 70s. You have the Monday Night Football game of the New England Patriots versus the New York Jets, with Bill Belichick representing the one that got away for the Jets. And ever since he left, there's been an onslaught of dominance. But now with Tom Brady gone, it's a new era to the rivalry. There's also the Vikings and Lions, who have this division hatred towards each other, as well as the Giants in Washington, who also have this interdivision rivalry. However, there's one rivalry that stands out above the rest to me. This week is the 25-year anniversary of the Cleveland Browns being moved to Baltimore to bring a team back that was stolen from them. 25 years later, the Baltimore Ravens will take on their former selves in the Indianapolis Colts. So let's get into why this means more. On March 28, 1984, Robert Irsay and 15 Mayflower Transit trucks moved the Baltimore Colts overnight to Indianapolis, Indiana, where they have resided as the Indianapolis Colts since. This is now a game of two 5-2 teams, and this has major implications for a playoff spot. This isn't a hatred like the Steelers versus Ravens or the Colts versus Patriots, but this is a rivalry that deals with one city having their team stolen from them. For context, Irsay was in a dispute with the city of Baltimore. See, he wanted the city to pay to improve Memorial Stadium. Memorial Stadium was where the Colts and Baltimore Orioles were playing at the time. And to be fair to him, it was a rundown stadium that needed a lot of work. The city of Baltimore and Irsay were in a disagreement, and on March 28th, no big deal, my birthday, whatever, the Maryland state legislature passed a law allowing Baltimore to take the team from Irsay. Now, what did Irsay do here? Did he just concede and go, okay, the team's gone. What else can I do? No. Like a shrewd businessman, he took his ball and he went home. But instead of actually taking a ball, he took part of Baltimore's identity. He got into his truck and he disappeared, leaving the Ravens feeling like Will when his dad left in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Him and 15 moving trucks moved the entire team. By 8 a.m. on March 29th, the Baltimore natives had woke up to part of themselves missing. The Ravens had lost part of their identity, and to make matters worse, this wasn't even a change on how when the Ravens were a new team and taken from the Cleveland Browns, they changed the name. They related it back to the city. The Indianapolis Colts didn't. They just changed the city name, but everything about them still represented Maryland and Baltimore. So it was more of a punch to the face to just see this team that represented this community not in that community. It's not hatred, but it's also not friendly. And I went to the most friendly website that you could go to talk to some of the Ravens fans to see how they really felt. That friendly site, Reddit. Now, while I was on Reddit, I'll be honest, it was mixed. Some people didn't think that it was a rivalry at all. Some people think that the media just hypes this up because there isn't enough rivalries in the NFL, but some people also felt otherwise. One fan in particular had a comment that stood out to me. He said, quote, by 1984, we wanted the owner gone/dead. Even okay with him taking the team if that's what it took, but just leave the team name, leave the horseshoe logo, leave the blue and white colors in our Hall of Famers. We didn't get any of that. To this day, I can't stand the thought of Rozelle and the Irsays. I started to get back on board with the Ravens around 1999, jumped on the bandwagon permanently in 2000. Ravens versus Colts is not a rivalry, but old Colts fans just hate the ghost of Robert Irsay. Rest of Irsay family is guilty by association. And I think that that is a pretty accurate synopsis of how this feels. It's not necessarily towards the Colts, but it is towards this family that took everything from them. And maybe the Ravens fans don't have as much hatred because they know that they took a team away too. But one fan had an interesting thought when he said that it didn't feel like when we got a team, we were stealing the team. It felt like we were getting our team back. And I can't really argue with that too much. It's never something that really crossed my mind in terms of the Ravens and Browns rivalry. They don't see it as they stole the Browns. They see it as they got their team back. Browns fans definitely don't see it that way. However, there is some ill will for Baltimore and Indianapolis because in the stadium in Baltimore, the scoreboard refuses to actually acknowledge the Colts name. Instead of putting the team name, they just put the visitors as Indy. It's a small jab, but it means something. It would take 12 years for the Charm City to see another franchise. And when they did, it would take them only 5 years to win the Super Bowl. For context, it would take until 2006 for the Colts to win another Super Bowl. And when they did, they had to go to Baltimore to do it. So when you're flipping through the channels this week and watching the games, there's going to be some great ones. Like I said, Steelers versus Cowboys, big game, and the Vikings versus Lions, and Giants versus Washington. But this one does mean a little bit more to both franchises. All right, so now let's get into the actual game. Let's preview this game here, and I'm going to give you some of my thoughts on who I think is going to win and how they're going to win. So the Colts and the Ravens come into this game 5-2, both of them, and the Colts are running a little bit happier right now because they're coming off of a win, while the Ravens are coming off of a loss to the Steelers. But I mean, it's the Steelers, best team in football, no big deal. But right now, I mean, this is two pretty evenly matched teams. But I think if you just had to say on paper, I think the Ravens are more talented. I think that most people would say that the Ravens are still the better team. But that isn't to say that Indianapolis can't come out with a win. And I think that actually Indianapolis needs this a little bit more. They take this game, they're really seen as a serious contender. For the Colts to win this, I think that they really need to utilize Nyheim Hines. I don't think that's going to be any problem for the Colts because that's what they have been doing. Phillip Rivers absolutely loves Nyheim Hines as he has the most receptions out of any player for the Indianapolis Colts, and that's dealing with T.Y. Hilton constantly being hurt. And I think if T.Y. was in this game, it would be a little bit more of an interesting matchup because I think that T.Y. Hilton versus Marcus Peters is something that I could really sink my teeth into. But without that, you have Michael Pittman, Zach Pascal, Marcus Johnson being the wide receivers out there for the Colts. And I think that that is a clear disadvantage for the Colts. So I think that dump-off passes that Phillip Rivers is going to need to do to Nyheim Hines is going to be crucial. I think Jonathan Taylor's got to have to be crucial in this game. But I think Nyheim Hines is going to be the big X factor in this one for the Colts on offense because I think that he's going to have, if you're in PPR for fantasy, start Nyheim Hines. I do think, though, if they're able to stop Nyheim Hines, I think someone like Patrick Queen for the Ravens is going to have to be vital. I think Matthew Judon is going to have to step up here and be very good, and not only with the pass rush, but I think that he's going to have to be able to cover and be able to wrap up Nyheim Hines in 1 yard, 2 yard gains. If that's not happening, Patrick Queen's not able to get to him, Malik Harrison's not able to get to him, then I think that the Colts are going to have a pretty nice day. But that does happen. The Ravens are able to utilize that. And now it's a matchup of Phillip Rivers having to beat the Ravens. I don't think he can. Maybe I need to put more respect on Phillip Rivers. Maybe I need to put more respect on the Indianapolis Colts they're 5-2. But I just don't see it with Phillip Rivers. I think that it's going to be a lot of dump off passes. I think that it's going to end up getting predictable. And it's going to be a struggle for Indianapolis. But let's get into what else I like about Indianapolis and why I also like Baltimore. So I think that this is a game of great run defenses, and I think that whoever can establish the run is going to have the clear advantage and probably going to be the winner in this. And I just like the Ravens because they're the best running team in football. They were dominating the Steelers in that run game and just wasting out the clock in the first half, and they didn't seem to do that in the second half. And I think that they may get a little scared that they actually have to pass and they actually have to maybe have a little bit of pressure on them. And when they get into that, they kind of start to lose their game plan. I thought their game plan for the first half against the Steelers was brilliant. And maybe Tomlin actually outcoached Harbaugh here because I think that Tomlin overall is the better coach. I think if Harbaugh sticks to his game plan, he's the better coach here. I think he'll be fine and the Ravens can come away with the win. But that's saying a lot because Indianapolis let up the least amount of rushing yards in the entire NFL. So it's going to be a great matchup of the best run game versus the best run defense. And maybe the Steelers are up there as well with the best run defense, but Indianapolis is really good. And Darius Leonard is going to be a vital piece to this entire game. DeForest Buckner, if he's able to get into the quarterback's face, if he's able to get into Lamar's face, and if he's able to get into J.K. Dobbins on inside runs, I think that it's going to be a hard day for Baltimore. We saw with Lamar going up against the Steelers that when there were so many smart blitzes, and the Colts blitz a lot, and the Colts are going to need, sort of the Ravens. Whoever's winning that blitzing battle actually may just be the winner when it's all said and done, be able to pull off smarter blitzes. But I think that they're going to blitz Lamar a lot. And in the two games that Lamar's really struggled in, we've seen the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Kansas City Chiefs, it's been because of blitzes. Colts are going to need a blitz a ton. I'm going to need to see a lot of Darius Leonard here, and a lot of DeForest Buckner here, a lot of Justin Houston here. But overall, I think that the Ravens are still going to stick to their game plan. They're still going to be able to run the ball. They're just so unpredictable with Lamar and J.K. Dobbins and how they're just able to utilize the run so well that I think that they still should have the advantage in this one. I'm really interested to see if the Colts secondary continues to step up here, because they're getting a ton of picks right now, and we've seen Lamar immediately throw a pick six in last week's game to Robert Spillane. I think that you have one of the smartest inside linebackers in Darius Leonard. If he's able to utilize that, then it's – as I'm talking, I like the Colts more and more. I just don't think that they're going to be able to stop that run game of the Ravens. And I just don't believe in the Colts as much as some people do. But right now, I think maybe something like 24-17 would be my score with the Baltimore Ravens winning. I like that run game a lot. I think that they're going to be able to utilize JK and Lamar. And I think that Lamar is still going to get that ball to Marquise Brown. Hollywood Brown, a little upset that he's not getting the targets. I think he does get the targets in this game. But interested to see how Xavier Rhodes does as well. But overall, the game is important, but it's a little bit more important when you know the history. So I hope you guys liked listening to a little bit of the history and why exactly this game means more. Thank you guys for watching. My name is John Pearson. Deuce.